So for my media of the week, I found a hidden treasure in my parents' DVD collection.
Before we get started, can I just point out, so for my own job, I recently switched positions to being more of a technical writer, so I'm currently learning in design. Can I just say
Mhm.
that that is some bad 90s Photoshop compositing there of that picture?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Like her legs just vanish. Actually, no, they
Yeah.
don't.
Oh,
Wait, do
oh,
they
yeah,
just
they do.
I guess that's her leg there?
Yeah, but it looks. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's definitely copy and pasted in. Yeah, like they
Yeah.
cut them out. It's like I think what they did was they cut them out of took like the different scenes from the movie and just cut them out and put it in there, or publicity photos or something. I don't know. Yeah.
Those look like scenes from the movie, but still, just that bad.
Bad, bad. Yeah, yeah. But yeah. So my thing of the week was noises off, and I have a little bit of history with this. So this is a movie that is it's actually an adaptation of a play. It's an adaptation of a play within a play.
Wait, I might have seen this ages ago.
Yeah, there are a bunch of people in this movie. I mean, of course, you just look at the people on the screen there. I mean, you got Michael Caine, you got Christopher Reeve, Carol Burnett, John Ritter, and that's Nicolette Sheridan. Nicolette Sheridan is the one in her underwear. And yeah, she spends like 90% of the movie in her underwear.
Yeah, this is the one where like they're doing the stage play and like there's like two floors on it.
Yes, yeah,
Okay, I've seen this, but I have almost no memory of it.
yeah. I've seen it. I've seen the stage version of this.
Hmm.
Um, this was over 20 years ago on Broadway, and uh, and I of course back then I really didn't like plays all that much, and the big reason why we went and saw it was because I didn't. This was one of the few plays that was that was going that wasn't a musical. I'm not big. I would not that big a fan of musicals. Sorry.
Oh,
But and hey, hey Ninja Toe, good to see you. And yeah,
yep.
happy Passover, happy upcoming Easter.
Happy Good Friday Eve.
Yes. And so we saw this play, and it was just hilarious. I mean, just because there's so much going on in it, and then I think I was in and then this was probably about maybe 4 or 5 years later. I found out there was a movie version of it, and I went, oh well, I'll watch the movie version of it, and
And it never fails. Nope, sorry.
somebody always calls DB right at showtime.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, and I really love the movie too. But I think it's one of those things where you kind of have to like if you understand what's going on and you understand like the dynamic of the characters, it's a lot more fun. Um, so uh, so in addition to the people that you see on screen, there was also who else was in it? You had Julie Haggerty, um, Mary Lou Henner, and I can't remember the name of I can't remember the guy who played the stagehand, but yeah. So the basically the whole crux of oh, but it was directed by I didn't realize this directed by Peter Bogdanovich. And if you don't know who he is, he directed a movie in the 70s, the 60s or 70s. I think it was 70s called The Last Picture Show.
I've heard of it, but I've never seen it.
Yeah, that's a movie my parents have been on me to watch because they really like it. But anyway, so basically the whole story of the movie about the play within the play is that it's a theater troupe, and they're putting on a production of a play that's called Nothing's On. And
Okay.
what's funny is that the play that they're doing has a lot of similarities to what's going on with them.
Hmm.
um, they're trying to do this thing, and Michael Caine's directing them, and he's really struggling to get them to the opening act is them doing tech rehearsal slash dress rehearsal because they're opening the next night in it's in Des Moines, Iowa, and so
Now,
they're just
truly a top tier theater town.
yes, indeed. So they're so he's trying to keep them trying to keep the egos in check and everything, like so one of the things that happens is like John Ritter's character and Carol Burnett's character are in a relationship, which is a little little odd because there's a bit of an age gap between the two of them. And although Michael Caine and Nicolette Sheridan's characters are in a relationship too, so he kind of balances it out. Uh,
Yep.
and then you have Christopher Reeve's character. Of course, like Christopher Reeve, like he plays the um what was it? He's kind of like the dumb actor. He just kind of like, oh, he's like, he always has to have everything explained to him. Like it's like, well, why am I taking the groceries into the study? And they're like, because the plot needs you to do it. And he's like, yeah, but it doesn't make any sense. I don't know why would I do that? And so Michael Caine has to like hold his hand to through the scene and everything. And of course, like once they start going, like the egos start, they all start rubbing each other the wrong way, and they're always like, so I think Act Two is where it really gets going, and that's where you see everything behind the stage, and they're just like constantly like they're like sabotaging each other all the time, and they're doing all this stuff, and just like Nicolette Sheridan's character, like she wears contact lenses, and if you bump into her, she's like, oh no, my contacts. And the other thing too with Christopher Reeve's character is that he doesn't like violence. Like he doesn't
Mhm.
like violent things happening around him. He starts getting nosebleeds, and then he's one of those people who gets really faint when he sees blood.
So violent things happen. So violent things happen. He gets a nosebleed because the violent thing happens. He passes it. This is starting to ring some bells.
Yeah. And so like, and of course the other thing is like Michael Caine is, like I said, he's there's a bit of a love triangle between Michael Caine, Nicolette Sheridan, and then Julie Haggerty.
Mhm.
And so so you had that drama going on, and then you have like just it's a wacky play, wacky play and a wacky movie, and it's kind of it's hard for me to explain it thoroughly because it's just there's so much happens in it, where and you kind of have to watch it a few times to really get like to get the sense of everything that happens. But I mean, it's a lot of fun. I highly recommend it. I like I said, I have the DVD of it that I bought years ago. You might be able to. I think it's on Amazon Prime, but you might have to rent it because I don't think it's streaming anywhere. It's kind of hard to find. That's why when I found it amongst my parents' DVD collection, I'm like, oh, I gotta get it. So
It's
yeah,
called, what was it? Like, what was it again? Lights Out,
noises off.
Noises Off. That's right.
You were close with the stage terms.
Yep. Oh, and okay, that's kind of fun. I was just looking it up on a whim, and it has one of those. Looks like a New Yorker. What do you call it? A New Yorker.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
Playbill. Yeah, New Yorker cartoon. Yeah,
yeah, that's it.
yeah, yeah. And if you ever get a chance to see the stage version, I would highly recommend it too. Hopefully,
Okay.
hopefully the whoever the theater company is that's putting it on does a decent job with it.
Well, I mean, in theory, if they did a bad job of it, that could just enhance the humor.
That's true.
Double layers of irony.
Yeah.
Speaking of lots of irony,
Hmm.
my thing of the week, sandwiched in between Daniel's two. So on Friday, I went to go see Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. Um, so this movie had a bit of controversy going into it, which I think we'll cover more when we touched on it in box office analysis.
Hmm.
So I'm just going to talk about it as a movie if I just wandered into it. It was a lot of fun.
Oh.
It had a very Guardians of the Galaxy feeling in the sense that it's a very flippant movie for a lot of it, but it has a good heart at its core.
Okay.
The basic plot is, and I apologize, we have established over years of this show that I am not great at remembering character names a lot of the time. So the basic plot line is that Chris Pine is a rogue who had been I guess what amounts to a magical cop or a member of like a magical order of do-gooders
Mm,
who kind of fell in hard times. His wife died. He's trying to take care of his half daughter, and he has his team of adventurers who help him out with that. And they do one heist that goes awry when he has a chance to get a MacGuffin that will bring his wife back to life. And he and several of the other party members end up thrown in prison.
mm.
And he gets out of prison via a method that I won't spoil because it's actually pretty funny. Um, and he and he's trying to get his daughter back, basically.
Mm, okay.
And he discovers some skullduggery from one of his old friends, and it's I don't want to get into it too much on a plot level because where this movie is the most interesting is it is actually a very faithful recreation of a typical Dungeons and Dragons campaign
Uh,
in the sense that okay, so and this is something I've noticed when I've played role-playing games. You'll have the one character who has the storyline that's kind of driving things at the
mm,
moment. Like I could see if there was a sequel to this movie, maybe Simon. I think this guy's name is Simon. Simon over here gets to be the main driving point. But
okay.
like different people are better at coming up with different things for the dungeon master to play off of.
Mm,
So like Chris Pine's character is the unoptimized bard. It's like you don't play pure bard. You have to have some wizarding levels or fighter levels or something. Nope. I'm just pure bard, pure charisma. Talk my way out of anything. I'm the man with the plan, and my backstory is what's driving the campaign.
ah.
Okay, fine. Then you've got her here. She's great. Michelle Rodriguez is great
Mhm.
she is a barbarian tribeswoman. I think that she would be a half orc, possibly.
Uh,
If she isn't a half orc, then she is a very buff barbarian,
yeah.
and she's the muscle slash the Drax the Destroyer of it, and that she's often deadpan.
Ah.
And she has a bit of backstory, and the DM finds a way to weave it in.
Mm,
Same with Simon over here. Simon has some confidence issues with being a wizard. He's not the best at it,
yeah.
or possibly, and he has to step up. And then you have, I think it's Justice Smith over here, where she is very competent. And when the dungeon master asked her for a background, she said, yeah. So she is like a tiefling, and when the dungeon master asked her for a background, she said, "Oh, well, she's a freedom fighter who's fighting the main bad guy, and she was mistreated as a child for being a tiefling, so she likes the rebels." Okay,
Mhm.
not a lot to work with, but not everybody's a role player. Like some people just want to roll dice and have fun.
Yeah, yeah.
She would be the player who you wonder what they're getting out of it, but ultimately they're there just because they enjoy being around everybody else kind of acting.
Yeah.
You've got the level 20 character, like dungeon master self-insert, who gets to show up for a mission because the dungeon master says, crap, these guys are so badly optimized. There's no way they're going to survive this dungeon. I guess I'll throw this Mary Sue character in for one mission so that they have a chance. You can. There are times in the movie where you can see the natural ones being rolled in front of full view of everyone over and over again.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it kind of. Holy Ninja says this sounds like the perfect D&D movie. Yeah, the thing is, when I say you can practically hear the dungeon master, it doesn't break the fourth wall that way. It
Ah,
it I'm saying like if you've played the game with anybody, you recognize the trends among players because like the last RPG group I was with, there are characters here who like would have been there would have been one of each of these because that makes for a balanced group overall.
Yeah.
Really, the only thing you don't have is well, you actually have the min maxer here, but it doesn't count if it feels like it's the dungeon master self insert and he isn't there for the last mission.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and it's satisfying. Like the humor is a little bit Marvel, but Chris Pine is able to sell it most of the time, and the movie knows when to serious the heck up.
Mm.
And it deals with a couple of heady issues. It deals with some interesting moral quandaries in places, but it's not like a heavy movie at all. It is a light popcorn flick.
Yeah, okay.
Um, we will get into the issues surrounding the movie when we hit the box office, but I
Yes.
feel like the creators behind this have on multiple levels shot themselves in the foot and cost themselves tens of millions of dollars in the opening weekend. But we'll get
Boy.
into that because it is not what people were saying it was going in.
Okay.
But we'll discuss that later. So yeah, I firmly recommend if you're one of the few people who wants to go to the movies who doesn't feel like seeing Mario this weekend, this is worth your time,
Okay. Yeah.
especially if you've ever played at a Dungeons and Dragons table.
Hmm.
But if you
Sounds
hear
cool.
anybody
Yeah.
calling this woke, no.
No.
We will talk about that a little bit more when we get to the box office analysis. But
Mm.
honestly, if you see a video that says "woke Dungeons and Dragons failed," question the credibility of the person.
Ah. All right. Yeah. Well, yeah. I remember when you said you really liked it, I kind of went, okay. Well, maybe there doesn't have the problem. It isn't what they're saying it is. So,
Yeah. Well, yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute.
okay.
But speaking of failure, Daniel, for some reason you continue to inflict the Mandalorian season 3 upon yourself.
Well, no longer after this last episode. Good
So, what
God.
finally broke you?
It finally broke me. Yeah. So yeah, I talked about the first episode, and uh, one of the things you pointed out when as I was talking about it was what I was saying was, and then that's the whole season, and then and then and then they got it's yeah, Chris Gore pointed out it's a video game plot. Yeah, and so it's just like, okay, well, the first three episodes is Mando uh, trying to get back to in the good graces of his little Mandal. Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna get into it in a second here. So get into this second. Um, but what happens is, so like the first three episodes, he's trying to get back into the good graces of his little Mandalorian cult, and then he gets Bo Katan's help, and as he's doing that, as he's basically rebaptizing himself in the waters of Mandalore, he gets pulled down by a one of those famous sea monsters from Star Wars, and Bo
Like
Katan
the
has to go down and rescue him.
Dianogas or
No, they called it something else. It's supposedly like some mythical creature that lives in the waters of Mandalore.
okay,
Um, and Bo Katan sees it, and so when she sees it, of course she joins the cult because she's been in the water, and since being in the water she hadn't taken her helmet off, and so she's talking to the whatever her name is, the chieftain of the cult, and she said, "Hey, I saw this creature down there," and she kind of went, "Oh, that's interesting." And so then there are a lot of little episodic stuff that happens. So like they had a whole like Land of the Lost type episode, and then and that's the episode where like Grogu does the little flips or over the kid.
that does the episode 2 Yoda flips.
Yes, yeah. And then uh, of course the worst one though was like well this wasn't the worst. Actually, that one wasn't the worst one, but like the filler episode where they're on Coruscant and the they're following the one like the scientist with the glasses. I don't know if you remember him.
I didn't, even though I watched season 1.
Well, yeah, he was only in like a couple of scenes, but he's part of this like reintegration program that the New Republic sets up for ex Imperials, sort of like Operation Paperclip, like what we did after World War II.
But with more
Um,
explicit mind control rather than financial incentives.
exactly, yeah. And so there was that episode which didn't make any. It's probably going to come into it later on, but then you get the episode that dropped yesterday, and that's the image that you see right here. Uh, so so Mando and Bo-Katan are tasked with uniting all of the Mandalorian tribes so they can retake Mandalore. Because the Mando finds out that uh, the air and water in Mandalore is actually fine. It's not poison. Nothing's poison there. It's just the planet's just destroyed, or the city and everything is destroyed. But anyway, so they go to this like I can't even remember the name of the planet that they went to. But they go to this like because they go to this planet because Bo-Katan's Mandalorian people, crew are all there, and they're being mercenaries, and that's where they're camped out. And so uh, Mando and Bo-Katan meet the leaders of this planet, and that's Jack Black and Lizzo.
So I'm going to ask a question that's going to sound very silly, which just shows how I'm often disconnected from certain aspects of pop culture.
Yeah.
What is Lizzo famous for?
Singing.
Okay, because the only thing I've ever heard about her is like fat acceptance activism or something like that.
Yeah, and yeah, but yeah, she's mainly known as being a singer. Yeah, not a very good one. I've heard her music. It's not, and although she's a better singer than an actress, she's a terrible actress.
Oof. Ugh.
God awful. Yeah. Ninja Toe says so. They made Bo-Katan a complete failure of a leader. Well, what happened was since she doesn't have the dark saber, she can't be the leader. Mando has also they are Mandalorians. Yeah, yeah. So Mando has the dark saber, and that's at the end of the episode where Mando figures out some loophole where Bo-Katan can have the dark saber. It's like okay, um,
So I'm curious about your thoughts on something.
mhm,
I've seen Chris Gore talk about it, and he says that the thing is, you can understand why it's cool and interesting to be a Jedi,
yeah,
but this series hasn't really made it clear why it's cool and interesting to be a Mandalorian. Has anything in season 3 helped with that?
no, it
Okay.
really hasn't. um, the only reason I would think it would be cool to be a Mandalorian is you get a jetpack and cool armor, but that's about it.
So basically, Boba Fett's character appeal.
Pretty much, yeah. But yeah, it's just and also like Christopher Lloyd was in this last episode too, and he's completely wasted. And
That's what I heard about it too.
yeah, it's just it was so God, like I felt like I was watching an SNL skit.
Oof.
Yeah, it felt like it. Yeah, it was like oh, this is we're gonna do a Mandalorian skit. Because because Jack Black's hosting this week, and Lizzo's the musical, is the musical guest. Like, just yeah, it's just yeah. I'm yeah. It's the whole episode was just so dumb, and it's so unnecessary, and this whole season has been unnecessary. Like oh god, yeah yeah I They should have made it strictly a Western. Yeah, I agree with you, Ninja Toe. Yeah, it should have just. I think the biggest mistake they made was bringing Grogu back. Should have just had Grogu like go off to train with Luke, and that be it. But of course, they couldn't do that because Disney needs to sell more of these.
Yeah, and even that bubble seems to have popped.
Yeah.
So Daniel, you say you're finally punching out.
Yeah, I'm punching out. Yeah, I'm done. I'm done with Mandalorian. Yeah, that's it. So whatever remnants I had of watching anything Disney Star Wars is gone. Yeah.
Sorry to hear that, man.
Yeah. Well.
DeLorean.
Yeah.
Well, on the brighter side,